Hi everybody, Chris Titley here and welcome to Scoreboard.
This episode is powered by SwiftX, Australia's top-rated crypto exchange and proudly homegrown, just like many of the athletes and business leaders we feature on Scoreboard.
Hi, it's Chris Titley here and on today's episode of Scoreboard, the podcast. I'm joined by Tom Gilbert, live here in person, which I think it might be your first in-person podcast. Tom, welcome.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for having me.
Mate, what a cracking day. We're sitting here on the 5th of November in Brisbane. Beautiful day, mate. What have you been up to in 2025 and how would you describe your 2025?
Yeah, obviously it's been a great year, surprisingly not. Probably not in terms of my success on the field, but obviously my life and career is a little bit bigger than that, and had the birth of my son in December last year, so it's been a great year spent with him. Done a couple of overseas trips, definitely in a weird way, my injuries, I guess, helped me grow as a father and as a husband, as a person. So for me, I'm leaving 2025 behind, that's for sure, but with a lot of great memories and hopefully a lot of great growth. As
a professional athlete, it must be a little bit tricky with the injuries, but then you found a silver lining. How did you go with the injury in your mindset and maybe potentially using it as a potential positive?
Yeah, obviously the initial reaction or response to something like that was difficult, and I didn't want to be in that position. I felt I'd done enough work to kind of avoid an injury, especially as such, that I think was a little bit controllable at the time and in retrospect. But in the same sense, once time had gone on, I was thinking, wow, I'm spending a lot more time with my child now, and I wake up in the morning and not having to go to training. I got time off here. I got an overseas holiday coming up. I started picking up just the fact that I was at home more, and I was really loving it. I was loving watching my little boy go from sitting down to crawling to now pulling himself up to saying his first words, and being a really active, I guess, parent with a little boy. It's just such a beautiful thing, and something that this injury afforded me. I probably would have spent a lot of time away from home and wouldn't have got to take him overseas and wouldn't have, got a lot of milestones. So for me, probably a bit of a blessing, and I'm really glad it did happen.
At the same time, you wanted to spend a bit of time in and around the club to make sure you're still part of it. How did you balance that, and what was the feeling, I suppose, when you were rocking up and not playing?
This year was tough. I probably had to avoid the club for a long time. I struggled a lot on game days, the fact I wasn't playing and it wasn't me getting ready to play a game. The last 2 seasons where I had those injury-ending seasons, I really wanted to be a part of the group. I really wanted to, I guess, try and add what I could, whether that be knowledge or just helping some of the younger blokes out. This year was completely different. I kind of had to get away from it all and escape from it all, and that was really tough thing to accept, because you want to be a good teammate, you want to be a good club person, but I had to put myself first, and I had to worry about my emotions, and like I said, I'm a father at the end of the day, I'm a husband, I need to be present for them, and footy was taking that away from me at that time. I was really lucky that I opened up a little bit to our coach about it, and he was really supportive, and I didn't go to any away games this year. That was time away from my family. I didn't go to a lot of team meetings for football because there was a lot of emotion behind me, and I guess when you have emotions and you need to be a leader, sometimes they can take over, and you're not going to give the most or the best response at that given time. So it was tough, mate, and I just needed that time away from footy this year, and that's so I can become the player I want to be come next year, and I was happy to give myself that time.
Yeah, the player that you want to be in your head, do you have a goal? Are you visualising the player you want to be?
I think, you definitely do. You sit back every day and think, what does the future not hold, but what do you want it to hold? What do you want it to look like? And for me, it's definitely, I want to win a premiership. I want to play Origin. I want to play for my country. And they're great things to aspire to be. I think now, as time's gone on and had that time away, I kind of want to look myself in the mirror and know that if I'm being a good father and a good husband, then the footy will come with it. If I'm doing those things really well, regardless of injury or success on the field, I'm going to be successful in the most important things in my life, but I know that doing those things well will really carry on into my football.
You mentioned quite a bit that fatherhood has, I wouldn't say changed you, but certainly the perspective has changed. Some, similarities, I suppose, between running out and captaining an NRL club or running out and playing Origin versus being a dad. Some of the traits, have they crossed over at all?
Probably not as much as I'd like to, but obviously probably discipline is one. You need to be disciplined with your kid. One of the things that, sticks out for me most is, if I want my kid to be a certain way, then I have to act like that. And at first, it's a throw around thing. You tell your kid to do this and do that, and you reflect on yourself. You're like, oh, I don't really do that. So just that's one thing that's helped, that discipline around that. It's like, well, I want my kid, especially having a little boy, I want him to be a certain way, so I need to start practicing that way and practicing what I preach. So that discipline really crossed over. The good thing about footy is sometimes you don't need a lot of patience when you're playing a game. With a child, you need a lot of patience, and I've probably battled with that a lot throughout that process. I think I'm starting to get a lot better with it. It's starting to get good. He sits on my lap and likes to read books with me and stuff like that, and that's patient because I read the same book 10 times now, and it's the best thing ever for him. But I enjoy it, and so there's things you pick up from footy that can be converted over, but there's things that I think I pick up as from fathering that in the other way can be converted over to rugby league.
Yeah, maybe a little bit of patience. Probably don't have too much during the middle of a game there, but as a parent, it never goes away in terms of parenting. And prior to this podcast, we're actually having a chat about investing in like the good bed to get a good sleep, etc. Similarities to investing in your health in terms of good teams around you and exercise physiologists, etc. The importance of a good night's sleep for you, Tom. How's that going now?
Well, it's probably like the biggest thing. I work with a sports psychologist. Her name's Jo Lukens. It's probably my 4th year working with her now. She's actually joined the Dolphins too, which is awesome, from Townsville, which is really nice for me. But the one thing she's always harped on with me is my sleep. So when I started working with her, we just started getting really good sleep habits and stuff. And then as soon as she found out that I was having a bub, she was like, well, like we need to get some boundaries sorted with your sleep, and in the same sense, it was a priority for me to get sleep, but then how can you be respectful to your partner and to your bub? And the way you can be respectful for them is you getting a good night's sleep to go train, to be more active when you come home, and that comes at a cost, obviously, for your partner. It's tough for her. You're not helping as much as you probably should, but in that sense, what can you do around your environment to make that her life easier around her sleep too? So yeah, we invested in a nice big bed. We invest in like electric blankets, nice pillows, ones that suit you. We have different pillows and stuff, and it sounds like a little bit extra, but at the end of the day, it does make a difference when you're spending a lot of your time having to sleep, wake up, look after a bub, get back to sleep. How can we create these environments for both of us to have good night's sleep, to be better parents or a better athlete?
You've just given me a good business idea about this podcast to try and attract sponsors there, whether it's pillows or doonas or electric blankets or beds, etc. If any retailers are out there that want to help out Tom Gilbert and give him a free bed, you got any sponsors yet approaching you for free merch, mate? So the sleep's on top. What other sort of tips that you would love to share from a high performance point of view that in your brain make you tick to be a better you?
Yeah, well, I think, when I look back at my good years or bad years, or good moments and bad moments, and compare them, that might be a week to week, month to month thing, rehab, a year. I just think getting the big, the fundamentals done well first. Like that's your big things. You need to sleep well. You need to have really good nutrition, and you need to hydrate well. And you need to tick those big things off first, because that gives you the platform to then go train hard, recover better, and then all the other little things that make a difference, that they really do take effect. A lot of craze around the sauna and ice baths and those kinds of things, and trust me, they do help, but they help if they're the tip of the iceberg. What's underneath that, what's the foundation, and I can look back and go, even from my injuries and stuff, I can look at the week before and go, that wasn't the right week. Did that contribute? Was that good enough? And not being too harsh on yourself, because balance is really important. But I definitely think that if I'm doing those three things really well, I can see it flow on into not just obviously performance, but how you are as a person.
So that was sleep. It was what you put in your mouth, and hydration, yeah? And what do you do for hydration in regards to making sure that you're drinking X amount per day? Have you got a thing in your brain? Is there an app? Is there some tech or something? Or do you just go, I feel a little bit dehydrated, I need some water?
Yeah, I usually like to try and wake up and usually have about a litre before training, a nice big amount, especially with how hot it is, and then post-training electrolytes. But it's just how you feel. Like I don't know if there's a magic formula and everyone's different, but I just think consuming enough and monitoring through the day is how you process it. One thing I'm probably big on is how I tone it down before bed, because I don't want to be up during the night and having to go to the toilet constantly and worrying about my hydration then. So I usually have a gap on about 5:30, really refrain from drinking bottles of water and stuff, and then just having little sips here and there. They're probably my biggest rules. But the biggest rule is, as soon as I wake up, go downstairs, before I have a coffee, it's a litre of water before I have a coffee, just to make sure I'm really hydrated.
Yeah, just on the coffee thing, you're a coffee drinker, it helps. Yeah, and do what, 1 a day, 2 a day?
2, 3, 4 some days. On my flight, we just got back from Hawaii. My wife kept looking over me and counting my coffees, and I had 4, just because I was bored.
She was the coffee watcher, was she?
She was, and judging me, but I don't know why.
For 4 coffees, you'd be a little bit. I get a little bit jumpy, I suppose.
Yeah, I think I was trying to wind down and enjoy my movie and stuff. But yeah, coffee, it's like the mental tick in the morning. I don't know if you need the caffeine, but it's just the taste, the texture. It's kind of like, okay, I'm ready to start my day now. So I do love coffee, and I think it's a big part of performance.
Yeah, mate. And just on the leadership side of things, do you think, as the leader of the club and leader per se of a team, is there anything different you think you need to do, I suppose, at a high performance level than not being a leader? Or is it just par for the course?
I think the biggest thing you got to do is be natural. But I think the understanding thing is, as a leader, is I don't know if you're ever the finished product. It's a journey, just like your career. It's a new part of your journey. This is my first year as a captain of a club, and probably my 3rd year of being a leader and stuff. And I'm still on that journey. And I think what it's a lot about is being able to receive and then practice the information feedback you get to become a better leader each and every day. I think the one thing that I struggled with early in my leadership is a blanket message that suits yourself, because that's what you believe in and that's what gets you going, but doesn't really resonate with everyone. So being more adaptive in terms of your messaging that resonates with everyone. And one thing I've learned is that maybe I don't have to be that person that gives that message to that individual, because other people resonate with people. I'm not going to be everyone's cup of tea. So when I do talk, it's really impactful and it's really short, because like I said, it's not going to get to everyone. And then if it's something that is needed, that's a bit more technical or probably suited to a certain individual, I'm probably better off getting one of my other leaders to do it. But I've learned that probably the hard way. I wouldn't say the hard way. It's not hard, but it's just part of the process. You're going from a period of someone else doing that talking, and now you're doing it. And it's, like I said, people respond differently. And leaning on other leaders to take those roles on and not having to do everything. I think as a leader, you think you got to do everything, but it actually takes away from what you're good at. So learning that's definitely part of the process, not having to do everything. And the blanket messaging, say your piece, but that you might need to reiterate that to the other leader to get it to someone else, because it's not because it's selfish on their behalf and they should have to listen because you're the captain. It's just because it just hits them differently. It just does naturally. We're human and we're athletes and we want the same outcome, but we have different processes to get there. So definitely learnt that. And what I mean by learning it all is that becomes part of your natural, that day of practicing leadership, that practicing that in your habits and stuff. So it becomes second nature, and then goes back to that first comment, is being a leader. It needs to be natural and organic. It needs to be who who you are and the essence of your values, for sure.
The professionalism in sport, there's a lot of friendship that's involved, and part of playing sport is building friendships and building connection through life. But this is big business as well, and there's hard decisions to be made. How do you go about dealing with that when there's hard decisions to be made when these people are your friends as well?
It is probably the hardest thing of leadership. A lot of good leaders talk about leadership being a lonely place, and I think there's times there is, but I like to take my time to make those decisions and reflect. Obviously you hear things different to coaching and staff and people that are really influential in the team, outside the footy team. You hear a lot of different things, and you hear things that you really have to process and go, wow, like, do I need to tell the coach this? Do I need to approach him? Or maybe I don't. Maybe it's better for the team. And you do play a lot of a middleman role. But I think that's the nice thing about leadership is that, one, you have people that come to you and trust you and to know that you'll have the best outcome or decision for that person. And then you're the person that processes it. And then, from the other side, the club has a lot of trust that you're giving them the right information at times. And, it's hard in the sense that when you come up with a decision and say, I need to, speak to the coach or something about this, or other leaders, you do feel like you compromise something that you've always been good at, but you realise it's for the betterment of the team, whether that be a player isn't living up to standard, or, if they're not playing or done something, you need to process what's the best thing for this team right now. And usually you're the bloke that delivers it. And that's why it becomes lonely, because, deep down, I never want to, be disloyal or, say something against one of my mates or teammates. But in the same sense, like, I want him to perform. I want him to be a good person, good parent, all these kinds of things. So that's the things I'm processing when I'm thinking, do I need to have this conversation with the coach? Do I need to have this conversation with the player? And I think as time's gone on, our group's really good at that. Our groups are coming really good at processing what's important for our coaches. So that doesn't really lie on me as much anymore, because a lot of blokes are not just even with, decisions from myself, but helping me with that decision too, so it doesn't feel as lonely. And just being able to have those conversations with, they don't necessarily have to be leaders, but other players in the group, and they'll be like, oh, don't do it, help me, don't help him. I think that's go back to leaning on other people to help you. Doesn't make it feel as lonely, but it's definitely it's a interesting relationship. But I always say, and I've always thought of myself as a good club person, so all my decisions are at the time, I think, betterment for the club, but in the same process I definitely have got it wrong, for sure.
Yeah, just on the club thing, you've come to a new club. It's really new in terms of building culture and building legacy, and you've got your own individual values, which you talked about, but there's also the team values, and then there's the club, broader club values. How do you go about, everyone's got little different backgrounds, they've got different values and principles, etc., but moulding them into something as such a young club to try and build a culture and legacy, and being part of that as the captain. How do you think about that in terms of longevity for the Dolphins?
Well, it's funny because we didn't really want to come up with too many values and stick them on a wall and have no essence and meaning to it, because I think, when you have values as a group, some people just have different values. And
sorry, I should preface that the Dolphins have been around for a long time. I'm talking about the NRL phase, not just the Dolphins in itself, because people might go, hey mate, they've been around for a long time.
they have been.
Yeah.
It's actually a really rich history, but definitely the NRL side is new, and it's a completely new journey for the club and for a lot of us players who had joined in. But it was, we had 35 blokes coming from, all different clubs. I think we had a person from every single club, or had played at every club, had been involved with us. So, they're coming from all walks of life, experience, times in their careers. So it was hard to put a blanket values over these blokes who have made a career out of different things. So one thing Wayne was really good at, and I think a lot of the big performers in our club, is just encouraging the individual to be themselves. And the process of making sure that we have those right people in the squad isn't about sitting in a meeting and telling them, you have to be this, that, we follow these rules. It actually starts at the recruitment process. And this aligns with, what Wolfie does is he's not going to bring someone in that isn't a good person, doesn't want to train hard, because if you do those two things, you can make it at our club, and you can bring your whatever individual values or things you have as a person to our group, and not being confined to values. So I know that from the club's point of view, that starts at the recruitment process. We'll get the right people that want to buy into our game plan and be good around the club, but they're also allowed to have their own, values and stuff. And I can say I could say every bloke in this group moving forward to next year has the values at least of being a good person,
Yeah, interesting. I was chatting to Brian Gorgon in a previous podcast about his recruitment policy with the Boomers and the Kings and his previous recruitment in all the teams that he coached. And he was talking about the fact that probably the last 5 or 10 years it's shifted from pure skill to skill plus values. Have you seen that probably growing up in your juniors, where you'd have the most skillful person? It's pretty hard not to pick them. But now it's almost like, maybe we don't pick them because they're doing stuff that which probably we disagree with.
100%. Like, you have the blokes that probably aren't as skillful or just go about their business in such a professional and tough manner that it's hard not to admire. And, last 2 years, Kurt Donahue and Max Plath in our club stand out as those two blokes. And they are actually really skillful. I'm not saying they're not skillful.
Yeah, but I mean, compared to X, right? Maybe sometimes.
But they just rip in and do their job so well and constantly turn up with an effort that's not really unseen and unmatched. It's not matched, really. And they had great years because of it. And they're the people that you build clubs around. You build club around these types of people that are happy to turn up each and every day and put in. They might not had at the time been the most skillful or renowned player as such, but they kept turning up. Whereas on the flip side, you have people with big names or a skill level that's amazing, or a knowledge about the game that's really good, but just don't want to turn up. And I know who I want to play with, and who a lot of the boys want to play with, and we're really lucky in that club that we don't have too many blokes that don't want to turn up. But those two blokes, and there's 4 or 5 other stories of blokes like that at our club that constantly turn up and play above their weight each and every week, and that's kind of what we built the club around, and that's not values. That's just picking these individuals that, hold them values themselves. That's just who they are. It's probably where they come from. It's probably comes from their parents or upbringing. So it's built with them throughout their whole career, and you can count on them. They have a bad game or a bad year, they'll bounce back. They want to bounce back, and if they have a good year, they'll bounce back again anyhow. They're the people that, as a person coming back from rehab, you lean on because they inspire you. They're the people that inspire the team, and we have a lot of them at our club. So I know the player I want to be with. Yeah,
you talked previously about being lonely, sometimes leadership, but as a professional athlete, there's importance to keep that support crew around you, and your teammates, etc. I'm curious, life as a professional athlete, does it get a bit lonely? And at the same point in time, what keeps you going? And I suppose the pressure that you feel as an athlete, and various stakeholders in the club, ranging from the CEO to the owners, to the coach, to the fans, etc. Do you feel the pressure, or are you embracing it, and does it get a bit lonely sometimes?
Yeah, I think you can play it out in your head that it does get lonely, but it's not. It doesn't have to be that lonely. Like I said, if you're at the right club with the right people, you can build a environment and support system that makes it not feel that lonely. But naturally, as an athlete, you should probably tend to look inwards and be really reflective of yourself and critical of yourself before you are of others. It's one thing you lose away with rehab because you worry about other things that you shouldn't be. What can you control? Whereas controlling yourself is the most important thing. So there are times where, like, selectively, I think, not lonely, but really worry about yourself and be an individual in sense of, if I get myself right, it makes the team better. And that element comes from certain environments or situations. Mine's because I'm in rehab. I haven't produced the same footy for 3 years now, so I really need to look inwards to give myself to the team and focused about myself. So there's a real loneliness to that, but knowing that that's giving myself to the team in the best way. The thing about pressure is, and it's a funny thing because there is pressure in sports, but I've always felt like I've always been in a place of pressure because you have that expectation on yourself to achieve results and to be a certain way or play a certain way. So you always have that pressure you put on yourself. I think the difference is how do you deal with the external pressure, and you can't sit here and not admire what the Broncos have been through this year in terms of the external pressure they've received, the criticism. I can't believe the kind of season they've had, and they won the comp at the end of the day. So that's a level of dealing with external pressure really, really well. So it does exist. You do have to manage it. But like I said, that's a great moment where if you look really inwards at yourself and just worry about that. And I've had to learn that the hard way, that's for sure. But worrying about yourself and doing that takes care of that pressure. And in saying that, it does also create that element of individual pressure or expectation you put on yourself. But have fun with that, because at the end of the day, it's only yourself you're trying to impress and who you should try to impress.
Just going to touch on that word fun for a second. As a high profile professional athlete, where does fun sit in sometimes? Do you try and bring it back? Michael Kasprich came on and talked about his form was falling, and then he went back to the reason why he's playing cricket. He's like, just go out and enjoy it, and he got a fifer, and then all of a sudden got picked in the test team again. Is it as easy as that, or is it difficult to go back to that fun element?
I think it's difficult, but once you're there, you're there. Like it's kind of like fun's like the flow state, I reckon. When you're really enjoying things and it's coming naturally, you're not having to put as much, not effort, but thought into the process. That flow state is fun. So you talk about like the good players who play unreal performances week in, week out. I dare say they'd probably talk about that they were in a flow. It just was naturally, it was automated. They could get through the week really well and get to a game and just know they're going to play well. I think that's the element of fun. When you're enjoying, playing footy because you're in an element of flow, and like I said, you're not worrying about the external pressure, and you're just going about business. But I think also when you're not guessing that flow state and you're in a bit of a lull or something, you should be having fun no matter what. There's a lot of criticism about, I guess, teams that are not winning games when they see a photo of the blokes on a Saturday night having a few drinks, smiling, laughing, and it's going, what do you got to be happy about? Well, life. Like, I got life to be happy about. Why should a job take away from me being happy or being fun? And it's a worrying thing because of mental health nowadays, and you shouldn't want to see a person not have fun or be happy because they're not winning football games.
That's such a powerful point. Like, someone's actually articulated that into the podcast for the first time, because you do see it every now and then, like a loss and someone's being jovial, and then the Facebook page will be like, they shouldn't have a smile on their face, they got whipped on the weekend, blah, 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 get back to work sort of thing. Hold on a second. They're human beings, right?
Well, how are you going to get back to winning if you're not enjoying it then? You got to enjoy the process, the journey. I reckon, through my rehab, my best moments when I'm in a really bad position, third injury in a row. Things can look a bit dim, but if I'm not enjoying it, then how the hell am I ever going to be back to my best? If I'm not loving it and having fun with it and finding the limelight and all of it, how do you expect me to get back to my best? And for those teams or individuals that are going through it, encourage this person to have fun with it, encourage this person to be happy. Because I remember when I was 10 years old, I didn't play footy to go earn money, to go provide for my family, to go win competitions. I went to go play footy for fun, and that was the essence of why I wanted to continue that into my career, was to play something I love, play something I have fun with, and we should be encouraging fun all the time to every athlete, with the balancing act. You obviously, fun doesn't have to be drinking and going out all the time. Fun can just be enjoying a smile on your face with your friends on a Monday morning after a loss to go win next weekend at training, or go and enjoy family time, go and enjoying your coffee without being hassled, because at the end of the day, athletes are humans, and we should encourage it for sure.
No, 100%. And some great insight there, Tom. I'm curious to know, this as part of fun, we've got a sponsor on Scoreboard, and that's SwiftX, and they're Australia's most top-rated cryptocurrency with 1.2 million people, or users across Australia and New Zealand as part of their sponsorship and their new campaign, Where Can Crypto Take You? We do a little segment called the Bucket List, which is a sporting event that you'd love to attend as a spectator and have lots of fun that you haven't attended thus far. I'm curious to know what your bucket list sporting event is.
It's actually good timing because about 4 weeks ago I sent my uncle, who lives in Melbourne, and he's good friends with the bloke in the Melbourne Cricket Club, trying to get tickets to the Boxing Day test match for the Ashes, but it's got to be the Ashes. And he said, mate, it's sold out. Days sold out.
220,000 tickets in about half an hour that were sold across the country.
So that's become like my biggest bucket list thing. Me and my good mate, we're going to fly down Boxing Day morning, go to the Boxing Day test
I've got
match.
a hot tip for you. See if you can get that flight the night before, because you just don't want to delay, do you?
Christmas Day is my wife's birthday, so the fact I'm going to Chris a Boxing Day test match on Boxing Day.
Well, let's hope the flights are on time.
Yeah, of course, but we didn't get tickets, so I want to go to a Boxing Day test match. It's got to be for the Ashes. That's the big one for me.
Mate,
yeah,
for sure.
sure.
I think it's up there with most people, and I think there's a lot of people living their bucket list out this year. Now, I'm curious also to know, being a sports player, professional athlete, what your favourite all-time sporting moment is. Preface this, that doesn't include yourself.
Yeah, well, so my three favourite sports, obviously rugby league, and then away from that, because rugby union's a bit similar. I do enjoy watching it, but AFL and cricket. So rugby league, sticks out for me was Kyle Felt's try in the 2015 grand final. To score on the buzzer to put your team to win a grand final is tremendous. But step away.
There's 1.5 seconds left on the clock or something.
Oh, it's ridiculous. I couldn't believe it. But put football aside for a second. Pretty cool watching the Lions go back to back. I was quite young when they had their three-peat. But it was the big thing when I was, growing up and playing.
Quite young. You would have been 1 or 2 or something.
I think it was when I was 3, 4, and 5.
You wouldn't have remembered them.
2, 3, and 4. No, I didn't. But when we'd play Aussie rules and stuff, everyone was wearing Lions jerseys, and
bandwagon started there.
100%, and it was the biggest thing. But then from then it dwindled for 15 years or so until they got really successful when Chris Fagan came back in. So to see Brisbane light up with AFL and 2 back-to-back premierships is pretty cool. But what sticks out for me the most was, because I was at this game, was Peter Siddle's hat-trick.
At the Gabba.
At the Gabba, yeah.
It's on his birthday too, wasn't it?
Yeah. I felt like everyone's birthday that day. That's, for me, probably one of the best, especially if you're live. I can vividly remember, I think I was 8 years old. I can remember the stands and everyone going up, and it was unbelievable.
Yep. I remember watching that on TV at work. Probably shouldn't have been watching TV at work at the time, but everyone was. So it was insane. Got a few texts from my mate. Did you see that? Yes, we never saw that.
Yeah,
everyone's going up. That's one of those moments. Actually, that's probably the first moment we've had Peter Siddle appear in the hat trick. We haven't had any hat tricks. I remember watching Warney's hat trick as well.
And now it's time for our Junior Sporting Club, a shout out powered by PayLab. Experience the ultimate in savings and convenience with PayLab Rewards. The PayLab platform is designed to help your clubs and its members make the most of every purchase by offering instant rewards at over 140 of Australia's top retailers. And even better, your club earns a revenue share from every transaction made. Tom Gilbert, I'm curious to know, which junior club are you shouting out to and why?
Yeah, North Devils junior footy clubs. Well, I wouldn't be here today without them. That's obviously where I played a lot of my footy. I've got a twin brother, so we played a lot of our junior footy together as best mates growing up until about the age of 12. And they do such a wonderful job in terms of not just, making a good footy club operate, but just being good people. I did a couple weeks ago, I did a thing with Dale Broman, the big man, and Trevor Gilmeister with the junior club. I think it was their 90th year anniversary. We just did a dinner. It was just nice to be around those type of people. You get lost in the professional environment, and it just reminded me of being a kid again around that club, and it's really nice to see them doing well. they've picked up other little sporting clubs along the way to expand their club, and then the senior club's doing really well. So yeah, big shout out to them. Peter Fraser, great bloke. He runs the club, always has, from I can remember, and wouldn't be the player I am today without him.
Mate, that's a great shout out, and also a shout out to PayLab for helping us out and supporting the segment and getting people a little bit nostalgic about their clubs. Check out the PayLab rewards. Now, one final question: your scoreboard moment, a moment in your life that's very visible. It's a moment like a Kodak moment or a sliding doors moment. From that moment, life changed. Tom Gilbert.
So I could not go past my son being born. That was incredible. That was such a mix of emotions. We weren't finding out the gender. It was a really tough labour for my wife. We had planned it pretty easy, hopefully. But we didn't know the gender. We were in labour for... She went in labour Thursday, 2:00, and had bub Saturday, 9:00 in the morning. So it was long. But we kind of like it because we get to tell a good story. But as soon as he was born, just the wave of emotion of... I think everything I wanted to be as a person and what I've been through, my journey from a young kid, from my own family stuff to now, like it just was capitulated in one moment of meeting my little boy. And, he is such a blessing. Like he's so cute. He's happy. He's loved. And that moment, to me symbolised a big change in me. I became a father then, and I became... I've always been a driven person who's always had to look at himself first, and it's about my career and getting myself prepped and ready to be an athlete. Well, that changed completely with that day when he was born, because that's way more important than me being an athlete. That kid, Luca, him being safe, loved, happy, his priorities come way before mine, and that's cool to actually change that in your life for sure.
Mate, what a way to finish, and I do thank you for opening up and being transparent on Scoreboard, the podcast. Tom Gilbert, thank you for taking your time. I know it's a busy time doing rehab. I wish you all the best for putting 2025 behind you and going into 2026. Make sure you get to the Boxing Day test match if you can. If anyone's out there that wants to take Tom to the cricket on Boxing Day, let us
Please
know. You may be in Melbourne, maybe not, but you're prepared to go. Nonetheless, wish you all the best and looking forward to supporting where I can.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it. Thank you.